Translator's Introduction to Concerning the Spiritual in Art. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Concerning the Spiritual in Art by Wassily Kandinsky, translated by Michael T. H. Sadler. Translator's Introduction. It is no common thing to find an artist who, even if he be willing to try, is capable of expressing his aims and ideals with any clearness and moderation. Some people will say that any such capacity is a flaw in the perfect artist, who should find his expression in line and color, and leave the multitude to grope its way unaided towards comprehension. This attitude is a relic of the days when l'art pour l'art was the latest battle cry, when eccentricity of manner and irregularity of life were more important than any talent to the would-be artist, when every one except oneself was bourgeois. The last few years have in some measure removed this absurdity, by destroying the old convention that it was middle class to be sane, and that between the artist and the outer world yawned a gulf which few could cross. Modern artists are beginning to realize their social duties. They are the spiritual leaders of the world, and for their teaching to have weight it must be comprehensible. Any attempt, therefore, to bring artist and public into sympathy, to enable the latter to understand the ideals of the former, should be thoroughly welcome, and such an attempt is this book of Kandinsky's. The author is one of the leaders of the new art movement in Munich. The group of which he is a member includes painters, poets, musicians, dramatists, critics, all working to the same end, the expression of the soul of nature and humanity, or, as Kandinsky terms it, the innerer Klang. Perhaps the fault of this book of theory, or rather the characteristic most likely to give cause for attack, is the tendency to verbosity. Philosophy, especially in the hands of a writer of German, presents inexhaustible opportunities for vague and grandiloquent language. Partly for this reason, partly from incompetence, I have not primarily attempted to deal with the philosophical basis of Kandinsky's art. Some, probably, will find in this aspect of the book its chief interest, but better service will be done to the author's ideas by leaving them to the reader's judgment than by even the most expert criticism. The power of a book to excite argument is often the best proof of its value. And my own experience has always been that those new ideas are at once most challenging and most stimulating which come direct from their author with no intermediate discussion. The task undertaken in this introduction is a humbler but perhaps a more necessary one. England throughout her history has shown scant respect for sudden spasms of theory. Whether in politics, religion, or art, she demands an historical foundation for every belief. And when such a foundation is not forthcoming, she may smile indulgently, but serious interest is immediately withdrawn. I am keenly anxious that Kandinsky's art should not suffer this fate. My personal belief in his sincerity and the future of his ideas will go for very little. But if it can be shown that he is a reasonable development of what we regard as serious art, that he is no adventurer striving for a momentary notoriety by the strangeness of his beliefs, then there is a chance that some people at least will give his art fair consideration, and that, of these people, a few will come to love it as, in my opinion, it deserves. Post-Impressionism, that vague and much abused term, is now almost a household word. That the name of the movement is better known than the names of its chief leaders is a sad misfortune, largely caused by the over-rapidity of its introduction into England. Within the space of 2 short years a mass of artists, from Manet to the most recent of Cubists, were thrust on a public who had hardly realized Impressionism. The inevitable result has been complete mental chaos. The tradition of which true post-Impressionism is the modern expression has been kept alive down the ages of European art by scattered and, until lately, neglected painters. But not since the time of the so-called Byzantines, not since the period of which Giotto and his school were the final splendid blossoming, has the symbolist ideal in art held general sway over the naturalist. The primitive Italians, like their predecessors the primitive Greeks, and, in turn, their predecessors the Egyptians, sought to express the inner feeling rather than the outer.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?